The universe, vast and ancient, hummed with the cold indifference of entropy. Civilizations rose and fell like sparks in a cosmic forge. Their empires measured in millennia, their wars echoing through the void like distant thunder. Among them, the K'thar Hegemony reigned supreme, not through brute force alone but through a chilling, elegant order imposed by beings who saw themselves as the universe's gardeners, pruning chaos, cultivating stability, and eradicating anomalies. Their ships, sleek obsidian shards wreathed in shimmering energy fields, moved with silent, predatory grace. Their soldiers, the K'thar enforcers, were bioengineered perfection, chitinous armor fused to muscle, multifaceted eyes, processing data streams faster than thought, voices like grinding tectonic plates. They believed in balance. They believed in control. They believed utterly in their own divine right to shape existence. And then they encountered Sol System. Earth. A blue-green marble teeming with life so violently, chaotically alive it defied K'thar comprehension. They called it Gorvash, the Deathworld. Not for its environment, though its storms raged and its tectonics groaned, but for its inhabitants. Homo sapiens, fragile, short-lived, emotionally volatile, and terrifyingly, inexplicably resilient. Where K'thar logic dictated surrender in the face of overwhelming force, humans fought with teeth and nails and jury-rigged plasma torches. Where K'thar strategy favored precision strikes, humans employed swarming, suicidal tactics that turned asteroids into shrapnel clouds and turned their own crippled ships into kinetic battering rams. They bled, they screamed, they died in droves, and yet they kept coming. Their defiance wasn't just military, it was biological, psychological, a fundamental refusal to be categorized, controlled, or extinguished. The K'thar found it distasteful, unnatural, a flaw in the cosmic design. For 20 grueling Terran years, the war raged. Humanity, fractured but united by existential dread, clung to the Sol System like barnacles on a sinking hull. The K'thar, frustrated by the sheer, messy waste of it all, escalated. They deployed the silencers, planet crackers that didn't just destroy worlds, but unraveled the very quantum bonds holding matter together, leaving behind sterile, expanding clouds of inert dust. Mars was the first. Then Titan. Earth itself trembled under the shadow of the hegemony's dreadnoughts. The Oblivion's maw and sundered sky, their weapon emplacements glowing like malevolent stars. Aboard the battered Terran cruiser UNSS Persephone, drifting in the shattered debris field of the Jovian moons, Captain Anya Rostova tasted copper. Not blood, though the recycled air tasted faintly of it, but the metallic tang of despair. Her command chair felt like a tomb. Screens flickered with casualty reports, 78% fleet loss. Luna shipyards compromised. Earth defense grid at 12% capacity. Outside the viewport, the gas giant Jupiter, once a majestic sentinel, was scarred by the lingering energy blooms of recent battles, its swirling storms stained with the ash of human and K'thar alike. Status on the Daedalus? Rostova's voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual command timbre, reduced to the rasp of a woman who hadn't slept in days. Lieutenant Aris Thorne, her tactical officer, didn't look up from his console, his knuckles white on the edge. Gone, Captain. Last transmission. They rammed the sundered sky's primary shield generator, took out 3 escort frigates with them. He finally met her eyes, his own hollow. They bought us maybe an hour. Anya closed her eyes. She saw the faces. Young pilots barely out of training, grizzled engineers who'd jury-rigged fusion cores from scrap, medics working in zero-G with blood floating in globules, all feeding the insatiable maw of Gorvash's defense. Is this it? The thought was a cold stone in her gut. Do we die screaming into the void, or do we go silent, like Mars? Her comm chimed, a sharp, insistent tone cutting through the low thrum of the Persephone's dying engines. Not Terran frequency. K'thar. Captain Rostova. The voice was synthesized, smooth as polished obsidian, devoid of inflection yet radiating absolute authority. It belonged to High Executor Vorlag, commander of the Oblivion Fleet. Your resistance is illogical. It consumes resources. It generates unnecessary entropy. Surrender the coordinates of your primary planetary shield nexus. Submit to hegemony governance. Your species will be preserved in designated biocontainment zones. Your chaotic potential will be studied, then neutralized. Anya opened her eyes, the despair hardening into something colder, sharper. Preserved? Like specimens in a jar, Vorlog. Like the dust you left of Mars? She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper that carried through the bridge. We don't do jars, Executor. We break them, and we eat what's inside. A flicker of static, almost imperceptible, crossed the comm channel. Vorlog's synthesized voice held the faintest hint of confusion, disgust. Your metaphors are crude, Deathworlder. Your biology is inefficient. Your emotions cloud your judgment. Surrender is the only path to continued existence. Existence? Anya barked a laugh, harsh and brittle. You call that existence? Caged? Studied? Stripped of everything that makes us human? We'd rather burn. She slammed a fist on the console. Rostova out. The channel died. Silence descended. Heavier than before. The crew exchanged grim looks. They knew what burn meant. The Persephone carried a single, forbidden payload. Project Prometheus, a captured K'thar void core, the unstable reality-warping heart of their planet-cracker technology, jury-rigged into a crude, suicidal bomb. One shot, one chance to take the Oblivion's maw with them. Prep Prometheus. Anya ordered, her voice flat, final. Set course for the maw's command spire. Maximum thrust. Eject non-essential personnel pods, if there's time. As engineers scrambled, sealing bulkheads and arming the unstable core, a different kind of tension crackled through the K'thar command vessel Oblivion's maw. High Executor Vorlog stood before the sanctum of unmaking, a chamber deep within the ship's core. Here, bathed in the soft, pulsing light of captured nebulae contained within crystalline spheres, resided the hegemony's most sacred artifact, the Shard of Aethel. It wasn't a weapon, it was a relic, a sliver of solidified cosmic consciousness, a fragment of the primordial entity the K'thar revered as the first weaver, the architect of universal order. Legends spoke of its power to harmonize reality, to impose perfect, unbreakable stability on chaotic systems. Vorlog had brought it to Gorvash, not as a weapon but as a scalpel, to finally correct the aberration that was humanity, to rewrite their chaotic biology and spirit into something manageable, something ordered. He extended a chitinous hand, the multi-jointed fingers hovering inches from the shard. It pulsed with a soft internal light, humming a frequency that resonated in his very bones, a song of perfect silent equilibrium. Soon, he thought, the cold certainty of his faith warming him, soon the noise of Gorvash will cease. The anomaly will be resolved. Back on the Persephone, the final countdown began. Thrusters flared, pushing the crippled cruiser on its one-way trajectory. Anya watched the colossal obsidian bulk of the Oblivion's maw fill the viewport, its surface bristling with weapon emplacements now swiveling towards them. Shields flared to life, shimmering barriers of pure energy. 30 seconds to intercept, Thorne reported, his voice tight, shields holding at 8%. Anya gripped the arms of her chair. She thought of Earth, the smell of rain on dry soil, the taste of real coffee, the sound of children laughing in a park that probably didn't exist anymore. She thought of the faces of the dead. Make it count. 10 seconds, Thorne breathed. The Persephone shuddered violently as killer point defense lasers lanced out, tearing chunks from its hull. Alarms screamed. Atmosphere hissed into the void. 5 seconds. Prometheus armed and primed. Anya closed her eyes. For Earth. The Persephone slammed into the Oblivion's maw's primary shield generator array with the force of a small moon. Metal screamed. Energy erupted in a blinding nova of white-hot plasma. The Prometheus device detonated, but it wasn't the clean, reality-unraveling implosion the K'thar expected. The captured void core, unstable and poorly integrated, interacted catastrophically with the maw's own exotic power systems, and something else. Something else. Deep within the sanctum of unmaking, the Shard of Aethel flared with blinding, agonized light. The perfect harmony shattered. The song of equilibrium became a shriek of dissonance. The containment fields failed. The shard didn't just shatter, it detonated, not with physical force but with a wave of raw, unfiltered cosmic essence. The blast wave, the tsunami of pure creation and dissolution, ripped through the Oblivion's maw. K'thar bio-armor melted like wax. Enforcers dissolved into shimmering motes of light. Warlag, caught in the epicenter, felt his very consciousness unravel, not into nothingness but into flavor. A complex, overwhelming cascade of sensations. The birth of stars, the death of galaxies, the taste of nebulae, the scent of vacuum, the texture of space-time itself. It was delicious. And then, oblivion. On the Persephone, the bridge was a charnel house. Anya Rostova was thrown against her console, ribs cracking, vision swimming. The Prometheus blast had been absorbed, redirected, consumed by the shard's detonation. Instead of annihilation, a wave of impossible energy washed over the cruiser. Warm, golden, smelling faintly of ozone and bread. It flooded the ship, seeping into cracks, vents, the very air recyclers. It touched the wounded, the dying, the dead. Anya coughed, tasting blood and something else. Something sweet, complex, utterly alien, yet strangely familiar. Like starlight made tangible. She saw Lieutenant Thorne impaled by a shard of console, his eyes wide not with pain but with awe. He raised a trembling, blood-smeared hand to his lips, licked it, and whispered, "It's good." Then his eyes rolled back, and he slumped. Silence. The Oblivion's maw hung dead in space, a dark, silent tomb. The K'thar fleet, thrown into chaos by the loss of their command ship and the bizarre energy pulse, held position, sensors overwhelmed, protocols failing. On the Persephone, the few survivors stirred. Anya pushed herself up, wincing. The pain was still there, sharp and real, but beneath it, a strange warmth, a sense of fullness. She looked at her hands. They seemed brighter, healthier. The coppery taste of blood was gone, replaced by that lingering, indescribable sweetness. She stumbled to the viewport. The debris field. It was changing. Shattered K'thar hull fragments weren't just floating, they were dissolving, not into dust but into shimmering golden motes that swirled lazily, drawn towards the Persephone like iron filings to a magnet. They seeped into the ship's hull, vanishing. A proximity alert blared. Weak, damaged. A single K'thar scout skiff, small and fast, detached from the main fleet. It wasn't attacking. It was observing. Scanning. Its sensors probed the Persephone, the golden motes, the dead maw. Anya's blood ran cold. They'd seen. They'd recorded. The skiff's comm crackled to life. Warlag's synthesized voice replaced by a higher-pitched, panicked chirp. Scout Commander Zakrin. Anomaly? Catastrophic bioenergetic signature. The shard of Ithil, it is gone, consumed, by the Deathworlders. They ate it. The words hung in the air, absurd, terrifying. Ada God. Zulakren's voice rose to a shriek of pure religious horror. Blasphemy. Abomination. The Gorvash filth have devoured the First Weaver's essence. They are digesting reality itself. Alert the hegemony. Declare absolute purge. Exterminate the devourers. Exterminate them all. The skiff spun and fled, vanishing into Theftiel with a scream of tortured space-time. On the bridge of the Persephone, Anya Rostova stared at the empty space where the skiff had been, then down at her own hands, still tingling with that impossible warmth. The sweetness lingered on her tongue. The golden motes swirled around the ship, whispering promises of power and doom. We ate a god, she thought. The absurdity warring with the terrifying truth resonating in her bones. And now, what have we become? The news spread through the K'thar Hegemony like a supernova shockwave. Not just defeat, but sacrilege. The devourers of Gorvach hadn't just resisted. They had committed the ultimate heresy, consuming a fragment of the divine. Panic, colder and sharper than any strategic concern, seized the hegemony's core. The meticulously ordered universe felt unstable. If the Deathworlders could consume a god, what else could they consume? stars, galaxies. The very fabric of reality. The hegemony's response wasn't just military, it was theological. Absolute purge was declared. Every resource, every fleet, every bioengineered horror in their arsenal was redirected towards Sol system. Extermination wasn't just policy, it was holy duty. On Earth, the reprieve was brief, fragile. The Persephone limped back to Luna, its surviving crew, Anya Rostova, a handful of engineers, medics, and Thorne's replacement, the stoic comms officer Kale Voss, were quarantined in a sealed biolab beneath the ruins of Copernicus crater. The golden sickness, as the terrified scientist called it, was spreading. Not a disease, but a transformation. Survivors of the Persephone incident reported heightened senses, accelerated healing, bursts of impossible strength. But they also reported hunger, a deep, gnawing emptiness that no Terran food could satisfy. They craved the taste of that starlight sweetness, the feeling of that cosmic fullness. Anya sat in the sterile white room, staring at her reflection in the reinforced plexi. Her eyes, once a sharp gray, now held flecks of gold that seemed to shift in the light. She flexed her hand. The broken ribs from the impact were gone, healed in hours. She felt stronger, sharper, more, but the hunger, it was a constant ache, a void where her soul used to be. She dreamed of nebulae, of swallowing supernovae whole. Dr. Aris Thorne, no relation to the dead lieutenant, a coincidence that felt like a cruel joke, monitored her vitals, his face grim behind a biomask. Metabolic rate is off the charts, Captain. Cellular regeneration is unprecedented. But the energy signature, it's not just biological, it's cosmological. Like you're tapped into something bigger. Bigger than what? Anya rasped, her voice rough. Bigger than the K'thar? Bigger than this war? Bigger than physics, Captain? Thorne whispered, awe and terror warring in his eyes. We think you're metabolizing ambient cosmic background radiation, dark energy, maybe even space-time curvature. Anya looked at the nutrient paste on her tray. It looked like ash. She pushed it away. It's not enough. Outside the lab, Earth was dying. The K'thar purge fleet arrived not with dreadnoughts, but with harvesters, colossal biomechanical vessels that didn't just destroy planets. They consumed them. They descended upon the outer colonies, Ceres, Pallas, the Jovian outposts, not with silencers, but with vast organic maws that sucked entire asteroids and moons into their bellies, converting matter directly into energy to fuel the war machine. They were turning the solar system into fuel for humanity's annihilation. The message was clear. You consume the divine, we will consume your world. Desperation birthed madness. In the war rooms of the Terran Alliance, fractured governments argued. Some advocated surrender, hoping the K'thar would spare them if they handed over the Devourers. Others, led by the fiery General Rostov, no relation to Anya, another cruel twist of fate, demanded they weaponize the golden sickness. If we've eaten a god, he thundered, then let's be gods. Let's show these chitin-headed bastards what happens when you poke a Deathworlder with a stick dipped in divinity. Anya was brought before the council. They looked at her like she was a bomb or a plague vector. Can you control it, Captain? Asked the weary Chancellor. Can you use this power against them? Anya met their eyes, the gold flecks in her own seeming to glow. I don't know what it is, she said, her voice low. Dangerous. But the hunger, it knows what it wants. And it wants them. She thought of the harvesters consuming Ceres, turning human homes into K'thar fuel. The hunger roared in her gut, a primal cosmic need. Let me fight. They gave her the UNSS Leviathan, a newly forged dreadnought, the last hope of Earth. And they gave her a crew of volunteers, survivors of the Persephone, others who'd been exposed to the golden energy pulse during the initial blast, all marked by the same hunger, the same golden eyes. They called themselves the Devourers, not with pride but with grim acceptance. They were monsters now, monsters who might save humanity. The Leviathan engaged the harvesters near the asteroid belt. It wasn't a battle, it was a feeding frenzy. Anya, Standing on the command deck felt the harvesters not as ships but as meals, vast reservoirs of dense, chaotic energy. She didn't order weapons fire. Not with hands but with that new sense, that connection to the golden void within her. She focused on the lead harvester, a monstrous thing the size of a small moon, and she pulled. It wasn't tractor beams or gravity wells. It was digestion. From the Leviathan's prow, a wave of golden light erupted. Not destructive, but absorptive. It washed over the harvester. The biomechanical horror didn't explode. It withered. Its organic plating cracked and flaked away like dry leaves. Its internal energy cores dimmed, then went dark. Its vast maw, designed to consume worlds, hung open, empty, as the golden light siphoned its very essence. The matter it had consumed, the energy it generated, the life force of its K'thar crew directly into the Leviathan. On the bridge, Anya gasped. The hunger, sated, warmth flooded her. Power surged through her veins. She felt the harvester's stolen asteroids, its consumed moons, its terrified K'thar crew, all becoming part of her, part of the ship, part of the strange, growing thing they were becoming. It was euphoric. It was horrifying. Status, Kale Voss yelled, his voice tight with shock. Harvester neutralized. A sensor officer stammered. Energy signature absorbed. Leviathan's power core is overflowing. Shields at 300%. Weapons. Weapons are charging with something else. The other harvesters recoiled, their biosensors screaming. They recognized the signature. It was the signature of the Shard, of the Devourer. The K'thar fleet, witnessing this abomination, didn't retreat. They attacked with renewed fanatical fury. But the Leviathan, fueled by the consumed harvester, was unstoppable. Anya's crew, their own hungers momentarily quieted by the influx, fought with terrifying coordination. Their movements preternaturally fast, their reflexes honed by the golden energy flowing through them. They didn't just destroy K'thar's ships, they consumed them, adding their power, their mass, their very existence to their own growing reservoir. Victory. A desperate, monstrous victory. The asteroid belt was clear, but the cost. Anya looked at her hands. The gold flecks were larger now, spreading. She could feel the echoes of the consumed K'thar crew in her mind, not as thoughts but as sensations, fear, confusion, the taste of their chitinous bodies, the texture of their bio-armor. The hunger was already returning, sharper, deeper. The harvester's energy was finite. Back on Earth, the victory was met with terror, not celebration. The Devourers were winning, but at what cost? Rumors spread. The Devourers were losing their humanity, becoming something alien, something that might turn on Earth itself once the K'thar were gone. General Rostov saw only a weapon. Use them. Drain the K'thar dry. Let them consume the whole damn fleet. But Anya felt the truth. The hunger wasn't just for K'thar. It was for everything. The golden energy within her was alive. It was growing. It was learning. And it was getting hungrier. The K'thar, reeling, did the unthinkable. They sent an envoy. Not a warship, but a single unarmed vessel of pure white crystal. The Sanctum barge. Aboard it, under a flag of truce that felt like a sick joke, was elder theologian K'thar, Vorlag's former mentor, his chitinous face etched with lines of profound grief and dawning horror. He met Anya on the Leviathan's airlock, surrounded by wary devourers. K'thar didn't speak of war. He spoke of the Shard, of the First Weaver, of the cosmic balance shattered by its consumption. "You do not understand what you have done, Devourer," K'thar hissed, his voice trembling with emotion uncharacteristic of his kind. The Shard was not just power, it was a keystone, a focal point holding the local space-time manifold in stable resonance. Its destruction, its consumption, has created a wound. Anya felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. A wound? A flaw in reality, K'thar confirmed, his multifaceted eyes fixed on hers, seeing the gold within, growing, unstable, feeding on entropy, on chaos, on you. He pointed a trembling claw at her. Your hunger, it is not just biological, it is the wound feeding, It is drawing energy from the flaw, and the flaw is growing because of the energy you draw. You are not just consuming the K'thar, you are consuming the universe itself, one star, one galaxy, at a time, and when the local reality collapses, it will take everything with it. Your world, my hegemony, all of it. The revelation hit Anya like a physical blow. The victories, the power, the sating of the hunger, it was all a lie. A trap. They weren't saving humanity, they were accelerating its doom and the doom of everything else. The golden energy within her roared in protest, a wave of ravenous need that made her stagger. More. Need. More. To fill the void. To stop the collapse. K'thar saw the struggle in her eyes. There is only one way to close the wound, he whispered, his voice thick with despair. The source of the consumption must be unmade, returned to the void from whence it came. The devourer must be destroyed. Before Anya could respond, alarms blared across the Leviathan. General Rostov's voice crackled over the comm, furious, triumphant. Rostova, what are you doing parleying with the enemy? The K'thar main fleet is regrouping near Neptune. We have them on the run. Finish them. Consume them. K'thar's eyes widened in utter horror. No, you fool. Feeding the wound now will only hasten the collapse. The flaw is already here. As if on cue, the viewport behind Anya flickered. Not with static, but with wrongness. Space itself seemed to ripple like heat haze over a desert, but cold. Stars in the distance stretched and blurred. A section of the Leviathan's hull near the airlock groaned, metal warping as if seen through a funhouse mirror. The wound was growing, and it was hungry. Chaos erupted. The Leviathan shuddered as reality itself buckled around it. K'thar cried out, his chitinous form flickering in the distorted light. General Rostov's voice became a distorted shriek over the comm. Rostov, what's happening? Report. Consume the distortion. Consume it. The hunger within Anya surged, a tidal wave of need. The rippling space, the warping stars, they weren't just a threat, they were food, vast, untapped reservoirs of raw, chaotic potential. The golden energy in her veins sang, pulling her towards the flaw, promising satiation, power beyond imagining. Just a little more. But K'thar's words echoed. It will take everything with it. She saw Earth blue and fragile hanging in the viewport beyond the distortion. She saw the faces of her crew, Kaleido Voss, his stoicism replaced by raw fear. The engineers, the medics, all marked by the gold, all fighting the same ravenous void within. They were monsters. Yes, but they were human monsters. They were fighting for home. Anya roared, fighting the pull of the hunger, her voice raw with effort. Full reverse. Get us out of this distortion field. Now. The Leviathan's engines screamed in protest, tearing the ship away from the rippling void. The distortion lessened slightly, the stars snapping back into focus, but the damage was done. The flaw was anchored, and it was growing. Alarn slumped against the bulkhead, his biosuit flickering. Too late, he rasped. The collapse has begun. It will spread faster than light, consuming space-time itself. There is no escape. Then we make our stand here, Anya said, her voice hardening with resolve. The hunger was still there, a constant ache, but it was no longer in control. She looked at K'thar. You said the source must be unmade, the devourer destroyed. K'thar nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his ancient eyes. The flaw resonates with the consumed essence. To close it, the essence must be returned, voluntarily, sacrificially, into the heart of the collapse. Sacrifice, the ultimate human weapon. Not just dying, but choosing to die for something greater. Anya looked at her crew. They understood. The gold in their eyes wasn't just power, it was a shared burden, a shared doom. They nodded, grim, resolute. They were Deathworlders. They knew how to break jars, even if it meant breaking themselves. General Rostov, Anya said, opening a channel, her voice calm, final. Stand down your fleet. This ends now. Not with consumption, with closure. Rostov's face appeared on a secondary screen, red with rage. Rostov, you traitoress. The screen dissolved into static as the distortion pulsed again, stronger this time. A chunk of the Leviathan's outer hull simply unraveled, dissolving into shimmering golden dust that swirled towards the flaw, feeding it. No more running, Anya said. She turned to K'thar. How? The flaw is weakest at its epicenter, K'thar explained, his voice gaining strength, a theologian facing the end of his doctrine. The point where the shard was consumed. The heart of the Oblivion's maw wreck. You must take the Leviathan and yourself into that point and release the essence. Not consume. Give back. It was suicide. Not just death, but unmaking. The solution into the raw chaos of the collapsing reality. Anya didn't hesitate. Plot course for the Oblivion's maw wreck. Maximum speed. All hands, prepare for final maneuver. The Leviathan, scarred and bleeding golden light from its wounds, turned towards the silent tomb of the K'thar dreadnought. Behind them the distortions spread like ink in water, swallowing stars, warping the very light. The K'thar purge fleet, witnessing the apocalypse they'd inadvertently triggered, broke formation, fleeing in terror. Only the Sanctum barge remained, K'thar watching, a silent witness to the end. As the Leviathan approached the dead maw, the flaw intensified. Reality screamed. The ship groaned, sections tearing away. Consumed by the golden hunger of the collapse, Anya stood on the bridge, her crew around her, their hands clasped, their golden eyes fixed on the heart of the distortion ahead. A swirling vortex of impossible colors where the maw's sanctum of unmaking had been. This is it, Anya said, her voice carrying over the cacophony of dying metal and unraveling physics. For Earth, for everyone, for the universe that shouldn't have to die because we were hungry. She closed her eyes. She didn't fight the hunger anymore. She embraced it. Not as a need, but as a conduit. She reached deep within herself, past the pain, past the fear, to the core of the golden energy, the stolen essence of the shard, the consumed K'thar, the taste of starlight. She gathered it all. Not to consume, but to offer. Hail, she whispered. Tell them we chose to be human. Then, with a roar that was part defiance, part release, part cosmic sigh, Anya Rostova pushed, not with engines, not with weapons, with her will, with the last, pure spark of humanity within the devourer. The Leviathan didn't crash. It flowed. It dissolved into a river of pure golden light, pouring into the heart of the flaw. Anya and her crew didn't scream. They sang a final harmonious note that resonated with the memory of the shard's original song, but woven with the chaotic, beautiful melody of human defiance, love, and sacrifice. The golden light met the chaotic vortex. For a moment the universe held its breath. The distortion pulsed violently, resisting. The hunger within the flaw roared, trying to consume the offering. But Anya's sacrifice wasn't food. It was balance. It was the missing piece, the keystone, returning to its arch. The vortex inhaled, and then silence. The golden light flared once, blindingly bright, filling the void where the flaw had been. Then it winked out. The distortion vanished. Stars snapped back into sharp, clear focus. The wreckage of the Oblivion's maw hung silent, inert. The Leviathan was gone. No debris, no energy signature. Just abs. On the Sanctum barge, elder theologian K'thar watched, tears like liquid mercury tracing paths down his chitinous cheeks. He felt it. The wound was closed, the balance, fragile, scarred but restored. The devourers were gone, unmade, not as monsters but as saviors. He opened a channel, his voice thick with an emotion the K'thar had no name for. Hegemony command. The anomaly is resolved. The devourers of Gorvash have performed the ultimate act of harmony. Stand down. Absolute purge is over. On Earth, the skies cleared. The K'thar harvesters, their connection to the hegemony severed by the cosmic event, powered down, drifting lifeless. The war was over, not with victory, but with a terrible, beautiful silence. Years later, on a rebuilt Earth under skies free of warships, Children played in parks. They told stories of the Devourers, not as monsters but as heroes who ate a god to save the stars. Scientists studied the faint, lingering golden motes that sometimes appeared in the upper atmosphere. Harmless now, just stardust. And high above, in the silent graveyard of the Jovian debris field, near the empty space where the Oblivion's maw and the Leviathan had met their end, a single tiny anomaly persisted. A mote of golden light, no larger than a grain of sand, drifted slowly. It pulsed faintly, once, like a heartbeat, then it was gone. But if you listened very, very closely, in the deepest quiet of the void you might just hear it. The faint, satisfied sigh of a universe that had been hungry and was finally, blessedly,